one. Hello, everybody, and welcome to TableTakes. Bonsai has said something untoward in the group chat, and I am just going to ignore it. Let me let you know it's nothing too bad. It just results in something about flatulence, I believe. Bonsai, you are always there when we need you most. But let's do a little show introduction. Welcome to TableTakes. This is Tabletop News from Gen Con TV. We are gathering all of the coolest, interesting news that we could find and bringing it to you with these lovely four hosts. My name is Marcus Mays, and I am so excited to be filling in for Peter Atkinson today, who cannot be with us, but he will return very soon for sure. But now let's get into these wonderful hosts and what they're doing. Now, I said I wouldn't call you out for this, but Cake Farts, what's up with you?
Oh, cake farts, all the cake farts. Anywho, my dad is actually visiting this week. So because where he works, it's really great. And he brought me this, a special
Monterey
edition
Beer
Monopoly,
Club?
which is funny because we talked about Monopoly and all the versions of Monopoly last table takes. And my dad actually brought me a special edition one for the Monterey Bay Aquarium because that's where he works. And he's visiting us right now. And so, woo, Monterey Bay
That's awesome. That's
Aquarium.
so cool. We actually like even like I when we were looking up Monopoly games, I saw that one. That one's really cool too.
So it's always fun to bring that also fun thing we did since my dad was visiting. I was able to go to my first like gotcha what is it called? Gotcha rotary sushi place. They have one by me now
What?
that just opened up. And so I got myself like all these One Piece figurines for every 15 plates we ate. We got like little
You
One
have Nami.
Piece.
You have little Nami.
I got a little Nami, and then I just got keychains. So that's we got little like fun little things. This totally made me eat more. I mean, I only ate the cooked rolls because I'm 3D printing a human, but from what we could eat with my other helpers, I was able to get all of these One Piece like really cool like keychains and Nami figures.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
What was your favorite of the cooked rolls that you had, if you don't mind me asking? What's your go-to?
Oh, of the cooked rolls, well, I'm always a fan of eel or
Mm.
unagi. And then they had this like because it was more of an American chain, they had these like wagyu beef rolls that were just cooked wagyu beef and with sushi like with the seaweed and sushi rice on there. And I was like, oh, okay, I can eat this.
Oh, that sounds
So it
delicious.
was yeah, and so it did make us eat more than we should have.
It
Because
incentivized
we're like,
that,
if we just get 15, we win more prizes.
and that's how they get you.
That's all they get you.
Well, thank you, Bonsai. I'd love to hear what's going on with your week. Now let's hop over to someone that I would love to hear more about their week. Javion, what's been going on with you?
I've been having a great week, actually. I wanted to show you guys a new game I got in the Kickstarter mail. I backed. Okay, so this is the oldest Kickstarter that I've backed. I have been waiting since 2020 to receive this, and it finally came in. And I honestly, I thought it was gonna be kind of just okay, just kind of mid. This is amazing. It's super, super fun. It's called Rise and Fall. It's a really fun game. It's kind of old school style. It's all
Oh, it's
about,
huge.
yeah, you're trying to place like a bunch of tiles on the board and they stack up. It's kind of got the feel of like building your own world at the start of the game and then just expanding, spreading influence, trying to get all these workers and stuff while your opponents are constantly trying to like steal your workers and convert them. And you're also trying to like block each other and just taking up a bunch of space. It's just a game about trying to build boats and cities and send your nomads, transform them into merchants and mountaineers who can climb mountains and stuff. I had a really fun time with it, specifically because it has that same feel of like chess or some other games where you know what each piece does. Like everybody's got the same pieces and they know what they do. And some of them can even transform into other pieces and only specific ones and only on specific land types. It's really fun. I really enjoyed it. There's a digital version you can play right now if you want to get into the alpha. It's free. It's called riseandfall.io, and you can just join the Discord and they gave you a key. And I was able to play it online with one of my friends this week after I got to play it with my boyfriend last week. And I really like it. It's kind of long, kind of a long setup, but I really, really enjoyed getting to like do a bunch of stuff and play cards and use money and all this stuff. It was really, really fun. I loved it.
Awesome. That sounds really cool. I'm glad that I also love that there's a beta for the online component because that's for me like I'm when I get a bunch of I read books a lot, but when it comes to like manuals on how to play games, sometimes I just lose it. So getting to actively do it in the digital space gives me a lot more freedom to learn and pick up that game. So that's really cool. I love that it's available. It was riseandfall.io.
Yeah, it's called Rise and Fall. You can play it on itch.io, that you can get a key and everything, and it'll be on Steam eventually, so you can wishlist it now to see when it comes out there.
Awesome. Wonderful, Javion. Thank you so much for bringing that cool game to our
Yeah.
attention. That wasn't even like a headline. That's just something Javion wanted to share with us. So thank you, Javion, for that. Next up, I do have to ask this last but absolutely not least. Noir,
Yeah.
what have your beautiful self been up to?
Well, I've been finishing up building my website. You can check it out at thenoirnigma.com. I did the Mystery of Innsmouth online escape room game, so I'm a little bit more informed on the story that we all played together. And I have to tell you, it's really good.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to tell you about it.
And that was the for those who are watching, that was the escape room. That was the base of the story of the escape room that the four of us and Peter, the five of us, did a couple weeks ago.
I definitely, if you do that escape room, I highly recommend checking it out. Other than that, I've just been organizing all of my TTRPG files online because I'm doing start playing games now, so I can GM for other people and for a little bit of extra income. And so I'm stretching my legs out learning system or GMing systems that I've only experienced as a player before. So I am doing Worlds of Darkness, I am doing Pathfinder, Iron and Lies, and a few other ones. So super excited about that. And if you would like to have me run a table for you, just go to thenoirnigma.com.
Get on that, folks. You're going to want Noir to run that for you. Noir is one of my favorite GMs I've had the pleasure to work with. So definitely get in there and use that opportunity while you can. I am doing all right. I am here with three of my favorite people, and I am doing this show with Gen Con TV. So I am pretty happy. I've had a busy week, but I've got to do some fun things. Like I got to watch some really excellent women's wrestling last weekend. Really incredible work from Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander. Love that shit. Just really all above the board. That's all I got to talk about. I have nothing interesting to talk about because that's what you come to the show for. The news. I am not bringing you the news. I am bringing you the transitions and the segues. Just like I'm going to segue into this incredibly by just saying, Noir, please help.
I'll help you out. You can just sit back and enjoy a drink at the tavern. Speaking of taverns, we've got a story featuring the 20-sided tavern as they are bringing some special guests to Broadway. Off Broadway. It's not important. What is important is that the live officially licensed Dungeons and Dragons off Broadway show is now going to have some heavy hitting guests in the form of Felicia Day, Bria Iyengar, and Erica Ishii. So you'll be able to see Felicia Day of the Guild in Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog September 19th to the 24th. You'll be able to see Bria Iyengar September 26th to October 7th. And then wrapping it all out is Erica Ishii, who'll be rolling dice with the 20-sided tavern crew December 5th through 17th. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with what 20-sided tavern is, it is a live show in which a D&D game is improvised and the audience is sectioned off in groups, and there is a party member that represents each section of the audience, and there'll come moments in the campaign or moments in the session where decisions need to be made, and the audience is able to influence the choices that character makes via voting on their phones. I got to see a preview when they were in Chicago. It was such a blast. There's a special Chicago touch in that every time One was rolled. Whoever rolled it had to drink a shot of Malort. I don't know if they've continued that condition of that tradition, but I do know that from everything that I hear, it is still a blast. So if you're able to go and check it out, you've got the dates. Go see one of your favorite people live, telling a very fun story in a very fun live show. Theater and Dungeons and Dragons or TTRPG. What could be better?
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I could not agree more. That sounds right up the alley. It's light. It makes D&D extra fun. It feels like you're a part of a live show. Combines a lot of aspects. I love it in spending my money to go see something fun. So I am fully on board. Plus, with that talent that you have in those three names, of course.
And the production design is beautiful.
The sets look so good.
Ooh, so good.
Okay, just as a quick aside, during the preview, we got to actually check out the stage and the set and everything, and it was so interesting to see that the show was being run by the GM on stage using a stream deck and OBS, very much like we do with these streams online that we do for you. Anybody who's done tech production for a TTRPG stream knows exactly what they're dealing with over there. So I just thought that was a fun little thing to note on a Broadway show, off Broadway.
Off Broadway. I mean, it's only going to go up and up from here. I think it'd be cooler also if they could maybe have the characters that they're going to play ahead of time and just actually have real actors kind of being in front of the rows for people to cheer for, and then have the option to romance them. And that's
Bonza just wants the romance option, I think.
Romance option
I get it,
with
Bonza.
characters.
So what's funny, and again, I don't know if this has changed. They do have pre-made characters, and part of the experience is they'll go, hey, who am I going to play today? And they have a list of already established characters. And I think one of the very first decisions that you make is voting for the character that person is going to play.
Oh, cool.
Ooh. Yeah, see, so then you could get improv artists, and then you can vote them off the stage. Sorry, I like having live actors and people play, like reenacting their playthrough. I don't know. I just love the idea of improv actors.
No, that's awesome.
That's fantastic. I love this idea. This is really cool. Thank you for bringing this information to us when that wonderful sea of talent that they have in the tabletop space. Speaking of sea, Javion, I'm hearing some updates to your favorite active card game, maybe? Am I overstepping my bounds by calling that your favorite active
No,
okay.
Marcus, you were right on the money. Yes. I loved Disney Lorcana. Super fun card game. It's been gaining more and more popularity ever since it was announced years ago, and the first set was released last year. And now we're on set 6. It's just been announced, and it's coming later this year in November. Quick shout out to Jeffrey Dome Sanchez of ICV2 for busting the news wide open. The new set for Lorcana is called Wright Sea. I'm not really sure exactly how that plays into the lore of Lorcana. There's not a ton of it. The last one, Shimmering Skies, was all about going to this big party at a circus and just having a lot of fun. So this one I can only imagine is like set sail for, new adventures and stuff like that. We've got new characters coming to Lorcana. Some of the people have been excited about and waiting for. Some you'd have to really dig to find those really dedicated Disney fans to find them waiting for them. We've got the Chippendale Rescue Rangers. We've got some Big Hero 6. We've even got some returning ones like Yzma, one of my favorite characters from one of my favorite movies. I think Road to Elder... No, that's not Disney. That's not what I'm talking about at all. Sorry. Emperor's New Groove is probably my favorite Disney movie. I have to double check. So I'm very glad to see some of these characters returning and some new ones as well. So we're going to see the new starter decks as usual. These ones are going to be Ruby Amber and Sapphire Emerald, both retailing for the same as they usually do, as well as the same booster packs and a new Illumineers Trove, which is that gift set, which is great for, handing off to somebody for their birthday, or maybe, I guess, a Halloween present. I don't know. I don't think any other gift-giving holidays are coming up anytime soon. Maybe Thanksgiving. This would be a Thanksgiving gift. The playmats and card sleeves and deck boxes are going to feature some new art featuring characters like Elsa, Donald Duck, Scar from The Lion King, and Winnie the Pooh, Honey Wizard. Funny, Honey Wizard is actually what they called me in high school as my nickname, actually. Uh, there's also a new gift set, a Stitch Collector's gift set that's going to be available in the holiday season coming up. It's going to retail for $49.99, and it's going to have 4 booster packs from the new set 6, as well as a Stitch-themed portfolio and a unique Stitch Alien Buccaneer water foil promo card. What's really cool about these characters and the way Lorcana works is you'll see the same characters with lots of variants, because I think when Ravensburger was sort of pitched Lorcana, they knew they didn't have like infinite capacity for characters to interact with one another in different ways. So they said instead, we're going to have some lore friendly, lore accurate cards, and then we're going to have some variants where we kind of just have some fun ideas, inspirations that we can sort of play with and see what if Kronk was actually like a businessman, or what if Stitch wasn't actually just somebody who fights aliens in space? What if he was like a guitarist or rock artist or something like that? So you can see a bunch of that kind of stuff happening in Lorcana all the time. I'm very much looking forward to this new set. What we didn't hear about was a replacement for Pixelborn, which is the digital version of Lorcana that was free for everybody, third-party made, and well, Ravensburger said, no, you got to stop that. You're taking our IP and playing it for free. No, you gotta buy our products if you want to play it. But everybody's been waiting. Where's the digital version of Lorcana where we can play it online?
That's it. You got to get it out there if you're gonna, push people for that. That's my opinion, though. My opinions do not reflect the same as Gen Con TV. I am Marcus, and I have very hard opinions on things. This is pretty cool. I love all these characters, all of them, every single one. We got Gadget Hack Wrench. I'm all about Gadget. I love me some Gadget.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Stitch, I think that's my most expensive card that I have, special edition.
Wait,
with
you
one
got
of
the
the
special edition Stitch?
No, I have I got like a it's not like legendary, but it's like the step down holographic
super rare.
Rockstar Twitch. Yeah. So, not Twitch, Stitch. And that's my rarest card that I have right now, that I have in a little nice little envelope. But yeah, no, I also just agree. This is, my opinion. But honestly, if they want to reach more of an audience, turn that into a digital game. Give me the mobile so I can play it off of my phone, because that's a lot easier to access than physical cards. And yeah, I was really into Hearthstone and a lot of trading card games. Like I did Grim, like an offbeat, like not really popular Grim, like deck builder on my phone. And come on, it's so easy. It'd just be so easy to get that out there and make it so it could be universally translated to other countries and languages, and make it easier for people to learn if they turn that into a digital aspect, because a lot of people nowadays do learn a lot of card games via like the digital version, or it's easier for some people to learn. But maybe that's me. I don't know. Just hope.
I hope that means that Lorcana and Ravensburger are working on a digital version of this that we'll hopefully get sometime soon. We'll keep an eye out for that for sure. But we do have some more new things on the way, this time from Modifius. Bonsai, I hear you're particularly interested in this, and I'd love to hear what you got to say.
Yes, so if you are a fan of the Discworld, Discworld book series from Terry Pratchett, Modifius, of course, 6 months ago, Modifius announced that they would be producing brand new Discworld RPG, but they kind of left us with only we might produce it, whispers. But now they fully have come out saying that the Kickstarter itself will be coming, the official title is we're in that Terry Pratchett Discworld RPG adventure in Ankh-Morpork will be launching on crowdfunding on October 15th. Games Radar, actually, so thank you to Benjamin Abbott from Games Radar for this article. Games Radar sat down with a Modifius designer and editor and interviewed them a little bit about what they can see in this upcoming game. The game itself will not be using the standard Modifius 2D20 system, and they crafted a whole new one that's clearly designed to play off the comedy of the Discworld and is more narratively driven. They also stayed away from modifiers to dice or anything that's crunchy. It's supposed to be more of a storytelling where you sit around and discuss funny things that make you laugh. about the Discworld series. The system is heavily based around language and world play, like puns. These are, of course, core about a lot of Discworld humor, and it seems like it's going to be about baked into the core system itself to like flip on tropes, essentially. The game is meant to have players interact with popular Discworld characters without having those characters overwhelm the story or be central of it. So you'll get to see all your favorite characters like Granny, Weatherwax, and Rincewind, but they'll only be in flight passing, so they won't completely take over the story. You are still the main character. And so, yeah, are you all a fan of Terry Pratchett's books or the Discworld series?
I never read anything from Terry Pratchett, but as I've gotten more and more into the tabletop and gaming space, I've heard a lot more about fantasy. And when I hear people talk about fantasy, Terry Pratchett's always the name that comes up, and I hear a lot of good things from him. So I am very interested in the kind of game, especially because I know he was a humorist too. So he like has a good sense of humor about his work, and I'm interested to see how this could translate the humor aspect of some of his work into this. But again, I'm super unfamiliar with this. This is kind of cool. Anyone else familiar with Terry Pratchett's work?
I read some of the books. I really tried to get more into it. It's just not super my thing. I know that you guys are all like the Monty Python fans and you like that weird stuff. Terry Pratchett and Discworld, that's the weird stuff that I really just, it was hard for me to understand what he was talking about in some of these descriptions, like a chest that can talk, and the description of it, like with all the, I just didn't understand. It was like luggage or something. I didn't really understand it as much. I think I think writers or stories being adapted to other things is something that we've seen plenty of times before. And I know many huge diehard fans of Terry Pratchett's stuff that would even shout out whenever one of the Humble bundles would give like a ton of content that you could buy for all the Discworld stuff. I'm happy for the people that get to play in the Discworld setting. And I will say the thing that I like the most about it were the titles for some of the books. Those ones really made me think and drew me in to actually get to the books in the first place.
I am not familiar with them at all. Like
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm embarrassed because I always get Terry Pratchett confused with Terry Goodkind.
Oh, I always get Terry Pratchett confused with Terry Crews.
Yeah, no worries.
That's
It's
not true.
kind of like it's a very, I will admit, it is a very weird niche if you are into like kind of like quirky fantasy tropes that's like very mix of British humor as well. So
I think for me,
no worries.
from what I've read about it, again, I am super unfamiliar with the work too. So like I know next to nothing, but tonally, it's a lot more along the lines of the stuff that I'm interested in. What you can do with a fantasy space. It's not just, for me, it's not just, it appears that it's not just the same thing over and over again, which is what I personally feel like D&D and games of that ilk are doing. But again, I'm not the most experienced one with this.
Oh, no worries, because if depending on what series, because Terry Pratchett's Discworld series is not a series that you necessarily need to start out the first book. It's like, what is the character arcs that you like the most? So I started with the witches, which is like book number 5. And it's centered around different story paths are for different, so you have to read the guides on which one to get into, and then I just ended up consuming all of them because I was like, oh, I like this, let's go ahead and try a different branch of the world.
That's cool.
So yeah,
Awesome.
so definitely check that out when you get a chance.
We go from one of the kings of fantasy writing to potentially a king of Tokyo. Javion, do you have anything about some kind of Tokyo king? Maybe something to do with your friend or anything? Please say anything, Javion, please, God. Javion, please. Javion, I need your help. Javion, I need
Well,
your
now
help.
that you mention it, Marcus, there is a new edition of King of Tokyo coming out for 2 players, and it's called King of Tokyo Duel. Now, this article comes to us from from Milton Creep of ICV2. And this version is actually coming out pretty soon, less than a month, actually. On October 4th, we're going to see this hitting the shelves. King of Tokyo is a pretty fun game. It combines lots of different aspects of different games that we've seen before, namely Yahtzee and monster battling games, as well as victory point gathering games. On your turn, you roll your dice, you see what you get. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. In any case, just like in Yahtzee, you can re-roll your dice and try to get the results that you are looking for. But ultimately, it's kind of just up to chance, which gives an opportunity for some of those newer players who haven't really played a lot of board games before to try to earn more points or make their way past and sort of meet you in the middle. This is a game, King of Tokyo Duel. It's new, and it's a game by Richard Garfield and Quentin Regnes, or I believe that's it. I probably pronouncing that wrong. Just like in King of Tokyo, this has the same two ways of winning. You can either try to get points or you can try to beat your opponent out of the game. But in this one, you actually have three ways to win, and there are 6 different monsters, each with different powers that you can try to use. You can try to pull the marker to win fame and or destruction. You can try to buy power cards to get more strength and different abilities to manipulate the dice or damage or both. And you can even use buzz tokens to help speed the road to victory. So this is a great game. It's going to be family friendly, just like the original King of Tokyo was. And it's actually going to be a lot shorter, playing in only 20 minutes for 2 players. There's a lot of components that come in the game. It's going to retail for $24.99. So if you want to check out the images in the article, you can check the link in Twitch chat there. There's a lot of ambiguity. We're not really sure what that third victory path is. We're not exactly sure what that could be. I'm assuming it has something to do with the new buzz tokens, which weren't available in the original game, but you're still going to be in Tokyo. So there are a lot of similarities to the original game as well. So me personally, I wasn't always the biggest fan of King of Tokyo and games like it. Games where you can be eliminated and sort of have to wait to see what happens with everybody else. Watching the people who literally took you out of the game rise and get stronger or even win the game. That can be a little demoralizing if you ask me. Some people really like that aspect of King of Tokyo. Maybe you can play really fast and you get multiple chances and people can sort of rotate through who's winning, but in my experience, one person typically ends up getting a lot of flack, getting a lot of targeting, oh, wow, you play a lot of board games. We must defeat you and no one else, and just keep letting this one other guy win. So this is why I'm really glad to see King of Tokyo Duel and other games like Everdell getting 2-player versions. So you can really just have a head-to-head battle. It's a little bit more fair if you ask me. What do you guys think?
Awesome. I mean, I'm glad any game that stops everyone from picking on Javion is good for me.
Thanks.
Anytime I play King of Tokyo, I just think of that old like multiplayer where you all play giant monsters in an arcade and you break as many buildings.
Rampage?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rampage. Yeah, that's all I
Rampage.
think. Yeah, so that's all I think about when I play King of Tokyo all the
Because
time. I'm like, Rampage, eat the
You
humans.
remember you could eat the nun and then God electrocutes you?
Oh,
I
was
don't know if you
it?
remember that if you could break into a church and if you grab a nun, you can eat it, like lightning will strike you, a cloud will appear and lightning will strike you from the sky.
Oh, I don't remember that. I just remembered liking to break into buildings and eat all the people.
I played so much Rampage. I unfortunately know too much about it, as well as I've unfortunately seen Dwayne The Rock Johnson's Rampage movie twice. So,
Oh.
speaking of something else that I don't have a transition for, Bonsai. There's some news over at Netflix and Tabletop Gaming. What's going on over there?
Ah, yes, Netflix. As you know, they try their hand at every little thing. Well, I'm sorry. This is also thank you for Rob London at Collider for this information. But you got Magic the Gathering show might be canceled, question mark underscore exclamation. So, way back in 2019, before the Void years, Netflix announced that they were working on Magic the Gathering animated series that was to be released in 2022. Obviously, that never happened, and folks have been wondering what is up since they haven't been updating any status. This week, one of the voice actors from the show, Brandon Ruth, was asked about the project and explained as so quote unquote, as far as I understand, nobody put a press release about it, but apparently it's not happening. It's just kind of like going away without any words. So they're like, maybe if they don't remember, they won't ask us any questions. It sounds like Netflix canceled the show and just never told anybody. But yeah. All right. But yes, so we did a little bit more digging. So this might be conspiracy because there has been like, hey, Dungeons and Dragons had several movies and a lot of other series had their own thing. But how come Magic the Gathering, which is such one of the like number one popular traded TCGs, haven't had anything yet? Well, I don't know. Maybe there's a conspiracy behind it. But by LinkedIn, some folks have discovered the ray of hope that in the April of 2024, Christopher Derrick, a writer from Star Trek Picard, announced that he had been hired by Netflix as a writer and co-producer for the Magic the Gathering show. It says basically on his LinkedIn, it hasn't changed, but working on that capacity. So maybe Netflix just killed the original version and is reworking with a new writer and new voice actors. That could be wrong. This is, of course, highly based off of somebody looking at somebody's LinkedIn. It could be real, could not. So it's all, for you, the Magic the Gathering fans. I don't know. We'll see. Could be. We'll see. But yes, there's conspiracy against it. They're trying to silence Magic the Gathering. Cannot have it. What do y'all think?
A friend of mine, actually, I brought this up to them. They were like, hey, what are you guys talking about on TableTakes this week? And I was like, well, there's a couple of things that I'm talking about, but Bonsai is going to be talking about the Magic the Gathering show and whether or not that's going to be happening. And they told me point blank, they were like, oh, yeah, that's not happening. I was like, what? Why? Why not? Just there's no cohesive story there. There's no way that can tie in all of those different timelines, all of these different characters, not to mention all of the crossovers and mashups that they've been doing. I'm like, well, they're not going to deal with all the crossovers, mashups. Haven't you seen all the Magic the Gathering books? Haven't you seen all of the different like board games that were built out of it? Like, I'm sure people have, didn't they even adapt some like 5e campaigns or something into like out of some Magic the Gathering lore, right? Like I'm pretty sure if they really wanted to, they can come with something.
All right, I've got thoughts. I've got a conspiracy of my very own, and I'm calling it the Supermen Who Deserve Better conspiracy because Brandon Routh deserves a good project, and every time he gets close to it, it kind of peters out, and it's breaking my heart because I like Brandon Routh. And also, the same is happening with Henry Cavill with Warhammer. He deserves better, and it's just not going well. And I don't know what it is about putting that S on your chest that ruins your future productions, but it's happening, and I don't like it. And the last thing is, your friend is silly bananas. Like there's so many stories to follow, and like you can follow Chandra, you can follow Liliana Voss, you can follow Jace, or if you want to go even further back, you can follow Ixidor, who's like his wife died and he brought her back as a chroma, and then the chroma's got beef with Paige, which was one of his. It's not important. There's just a lot of stories that you could tell the Magic together.
Is there a lot of good stories that would wind up on TV? Is my thing. Like you got to tell a TV story. You need 3-act structure. You need to have. I think there are stories in the Magic the Gathering universe. I just am hesitant to see who they get to do something with it. If Brandon Routh's out, I am a little less optimistic about the project.
What drives me bonkers is like for a good couple of years, Game of Thrones dominated TV, and it's because it was a story that had a lot of point of views and perspectives. So I don't understand why it's so hard to kind of imagine a franchise like Magic doing the same thing. We've got so many different realms, planes, and the like, and so many different characters. And just watching them do their thing, and then eventually meeting up, and like that's gold right there. Let's get it.
Again, that's a great concept. I love that concept, but you need someone to actually take the time to write that out, because you saw what happened. You saw what happened. The dude who took the time to write it out gave them good content, and then when they ran out of stuff to do, they just kind of did what they thought was best. and no one really liked that. And that's what I'm worried is going to be more of the Game of Thrones or more of the Magic the Gathering vibe. And hopefully we'll actually get a chance to see. Hopefully we're all right in our own way and they win. We get a Magic the Gathering series that we all want to see. I would love to see something like that, but unfortunately right now it looks like it might not be on the table. But something that is on the table, new from WizKids Noir.
Oh, that was a good one.
Really
So, uh, shout out to Jeffrey Dos Sanchez of ICV2 for hooking us up with this article. WizKids reveals new Dungeons and Dragons board game. Dungeons and Dragons Builders of Baldur's Gate is a new city building game by designer Matthew Dunstan. And in this game, players are going to assume the roles of heads of the powerful families in Baldur's Gate. They'll be tasked with growing their prestige by building new businesses within the 9 districts of the city and extending the family's influence by gaining the favor of 3 main factions of the city, which is going to be the Council of Four, the Flaming Fist, and the Thieves Guild. By placing buildings such as special keeps, gates, and watchtowers, players will gain influence cubes that will help them grow. However, players still need to be wary of outside threats like monsters that attack the outer walls, which will force temporary alliances between the families to stop them. The most powerful family at the end of the game will end up with control of the city and win. This game is for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and plays for 90 minutes. It's gonna retail cost around $64.99. Um, I I don't have any problem with this. I think this is gonna. I think this sounds fun. I think any addition to Baldur's Gate is a good addition. I also think that if you're interested in this concept, you might want to check out the game Lords of Waterdeep, which has a very similar feel to it, and Meeples.
I've got
That's
some thoughts.
it. No, go ahead.
I'm glad you brought up Lords of Waterdeep, Norm. This might be like the 4th or 5th game about D&D, like D&D board game. That's about factions of the world that they've already created. That's a lot. That's a lot of board games to make about one thing. Like, think about how many different board games that they've made about farming or like herding sheep. This is the same vibe that I'm getting from, what is it, WizKids that's making this one? Like, I really was excited to see when Yawning Portal came out, right? Because that one was like, oh, instead of, doing the same thing we've done a bunch of times, now we're going to have a game about a tavern. And it's not even about fighting monsters. Now it's about feeding them and making sure everybody's happy and stuff like that. That's original. That's smart. That I like. I feel like we just get a lot of city building, just building type games. I don't know if the market's a little bit saturated, but sure does feel like it.
I have to agree with you. I feel like with something like D&D and Baldur's Gate, I I would prefer a little bit more magic. Like not magic as in like fireball, but just something that makes this game unique among others. And I do feel like, you could play this and build Baldur's Gate, or you could play something else and build Chicago,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just I feel like a lot of companies, it's hard nowadays to kind of like take that initiative, that step to like kind of innovate in many ways. And they just like a lot of people just like the faction and politics of a lot of things, and that's just kind of tried and true. Versus like what to do with magical pets when they go astray, or like failed, like a book that is dealing with failed magic items that people kind of make that isn't conceptually like the best magical item. I don't know. It's just they're hard. It's hard to talk to people about trying new things when the tried and true, especially when you're a larger company that want to make a bottom line, it's hard to do that.
Absolutely. I am interested. The only thing I know about Baldur's Gate is I played Baldur's Gate 3. That's the only thing I know about it. So I see Baldur's Gate 3. I'm like, oh, cool, the video game that doesn't exist anymore.
That's probably what it was. They probably heard, oh, Baldur's Gate 3, everybody likes it. Oh, we should make a board game with Baldur's Gate in the title. Quick, quick, put it out, put it out.
Oh, that's great.
I have to tell y'all, when
please.
I decided to report on this, I was like, I've got to do what I can not to be salty while reporting it, and y'all have taken care of that for
You're in
me.
good company, buddy.
Well, I do remember there was like you had mentioned that you were repressing the salt on a specific the factions. It was a faction issue you had.
Yeah, they mentioned the Council of Four, the Flaming Fist, and the Thieves Guild, and I feel like there are a number of named Thieves Guilds that they could have used, and also like if it feels like the big push with a lot of these D&D labeled products is to like put the Harpers front and center. And I've grown to really like the Harpers. I was in a Harper campaign for like a good 2 years. So seeing them omitted from this kind of hurt my feelings a little bit.
That is heartbreaking. I hope that they make amends to you for that in some way. First this, and then what Magic the Gathering has done to you, and Lorcana.
Yes,
and
this
all
is the
these-
worst thing Wizards has ever done.
Truly, there is definitely not some piece of news
I'm
that
kidding.
got across my desk a little bit late that we'll definitely be talking about next week. There's definitely nothing that we are sitting on right now. But unfortunately, I think this is the end of our headline section of this show. But we are going to bring in our guest momentarily. I am
Hey.
going to make sure that they know that we're bringing them in momentarily. Yes, so we are joined by a continuing series of the Diana Jones Emerging Designer Program winners. We are joined by Basil Wright. Basil Wright is a Black and Seminole, Florida native whose works focus on drawing from the magical, from the mundane. They enjoy creating weird games for equally weirder people. And I think that is right up all of our weird alleys. So we're going to go to our interview-worthy screen, and when we come back, we'll have Basil with us. So one moment.
There we go. Okay.
Hey.
Here we are. We are live. We are back with the Diana Jones Emerging Design Program winner, Basil Wright. Basil or Basil? How would I pronounce that?
It's Basil.
Basil. Okay,
Basil.
perfect. I was saying Basil this whole time, and I second guessed myself when I brought you in. I am so sorry, Basil. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you. Would you like to just tell us a little bit about yourself? Introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah. So I am a game designer, sensitivity consultant, and occasional translator. Primarily I make weird games. That's what I've wanted to do. That's kind of what I end up being known for. I've done sensitivity consulting for MCDM, for the Cosmere RPG. Bunch of other places. I've done writing for All the Witches, Back Channels, which hasn't come out yet, but I'm excited for when it does. And the Tomb Raider RPG, and a bunch of other things that people can check out on my website, where I keep my portfolio. When I'm not doing any of that, I'm reading, playing video games, hanging out with my sibling, enjoying the Florida sun, less so with hurricane season because that means storms, but you still get a lot of sunshine. It'll just rain on one half of the street while you're trying to commute. So
That's awesome. So just off the bat, can I ask? You mentioned a few licensed properties that you've had to work with. Do you feel whenever you're designing or doing work with a licensed property, constrained in your development, or how do you work within the confines of creating for something that already exists?
honestly, I think it comes down to the project for Tomb Raider. it was just honestly, it was just a lot of fun just being able to like, okay, well, here's what's going on. Here's what we need you to write, and just work from there. I actually really enjoyed having that sort of like the little bumper guards when you go bowling. Kind of liked having that.
Yes.
That's a wonderful way of describing it. Yeah, I like that.
Was talking about all of the projects and work that you have been into. What is like your main, like when you go ahead and design something for yourself that you're really wanting to do, what is your like main thought process of like, should I make this fun? Should I make this more like exposing another story that a lot of people don't see from their perspective? Or is it just like what the vibe is catching for you?
Generally speaking, when I design games, I keep a dream journal and I write down. I try to, at least. Lately I've been too tired and then I wake up and forget. But generally speaking, pretty much all of the games that I've released so far were based off of a dream I had or some daydreaming. So I kind of just tend to lean into the sort of weirdness of what's going on. Like for example, Your Naked Run is
Yes.
specifically about the recurring dream I had for a very long while about being naked and being chased by the police for some reason. And when I decided to talk to my sibling Briar about it, he was like, "No, that's not a thing. That's not a dream I have." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'll ask our friends and they'll back me up." And all of our friends were like, "Basil, what are you talking about? That sounds terrifying. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, I'm fine." They're like, "No, I either have a dream that I'm being chased or that I'm naked, not both." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I was like, maybe the dreams will stop if I make a game out of it, and it basically did. So I was like, okay, well, we'll just do that, I guess. Um, but I think like there's like a few games where I specifically decided to like approach it from a certain angle. Like I'm still working on there's a one-page version of it out right now, but I'm still working on Rancher's Romance, which I decided to make as a giant love letter to my mom, who really loved cowboy novels. Specifically werewolf cowboy romance novels.
I
We
can
had to
even
clean out
imagine.
yeah, when we had to clean out her apartment after she passed. My mom had three what are they called? I always forget. It's like I think it's like stereo light. Like when you go to Walmart and you buy like a big plastic tub to store things
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
my with the lid and the lock, yeah, and the locks on the sides. My mom had three of those, and then a pile of books stacked on top of that. And then we found more books in her bedroom, and then a few more in the closet. So, and I was surprised because when she moved from Florida up to Delaware, I had helped her put her romance books away and sort them. And I was like, there are more books here than I last sorted. So there were just so many. It was just ranchers and farmers and cowboys. I think maybe one of them was a vampire. So just kind of channeling that energy into that game and how it was really weird, but also apparently really smutty. Mom never let me read any of them, but I flipped to one at one point and I was like, I want to see what the fuss is about. Mom's like making me like a snack. She's not going to notice. And then I was like, oh wow. Oh, there's a lot going on in here. And then of course that's when my mom comes back out of the kitchen and she's like, "Stop reading that. I told you to sort those, not read them." And I'm like, "Mom, what is going on in this cabin?" And she's just like, "Put the book down. Okay, if you can't be trusted to look at the book, then you need to put it away." And I'm like, is it just like it just keeps going? Like I was just flipping through, I'm just like it just kept going, and she was just like, "That's why these are mommy's books, and you read your manga." And I'm like, "Okay, all right, mom, I'll just I'll just be quiet." So it's been fun, kind of just checking out the romance genre and looking at more books. And I love the one thing I do love is the covers. I always love the covers of romance novels,
Yes, yes.
and like it was always like half naked men and like women in beautiful dresses, just that kind of vibe. Um, so I'd say there's like a small handful of games: Rancher's Romance, Well Wishers, which I made specifically to process my grief about my mom dying, Pelogos, which I'm still working on, which is the other one, and a handful of others. Oh, I have one I'm working on that's directly referencing my former upstairs neighbor, who from the hours of 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. would fight with his furniture. But he was dead quiet the rest of the time. So I'm working on Furniture Fight, where your furniture comes to life in your apartment and you have to fight it.
I I
Uh,
I love this. I cannot tell you how much I love that concept.
we
No,
loved
because
Furniture Guy. He was so quiet. Like every other hour, it'd be fine. And if you started hearing the furniture noises, well, that's on you for staying up too late. What are you doing up awake on a Tuesday at 1 a.m. when you should be asleep and getting ready for work, you know? And I'm like, one time I got annoyed and I was like, oh, wait, you know what? This is on me. Why am I awake? You do your thing, furniture guy.
That poor man is up there fighting for his life. So I kind of want to bring you back to the Diana Jones Award that you won. I'm kind of curious as to how things change when you have that accolade added to your resume. Does it increase expectations from your work, or do you just kind of take it in stride? Like, how has this personally affected you?
So I will say, you know, just like even being like, you know, chosen was such an honor. And I was so surprised. Like I remember mentioning like offhand on Twitter, I was like, hey guys, y'all should vote for me. And then I was like, you know, it'll probably go to somebody else. And I just kept, you know, focusing on other stuff and work stuff and whatnot. And then it was like, no, hey, actually, you won, you and several other talented people. And then I was like, and then I ran over to go scream at my sibling who did not understand really what was going on. And I had to explain for like 2 minutes. And then Z was like, it's cool, and then just went back to watching Pokemon videos. Like I love my sibling, but they're kind of like tabletop adjacent. So, but it has,
That
I think it's really changed my process or how I approach things that much. You know, again, it is like a super huge honor, and I was super excited to get it and just recognize some names also on the list. Taylor, who is amazing. Um, but you know, most of the time, honestly, kind of just forget. I'm like, oh yeah, I did win that thing. That's cool. Okay. But also I need to do the dishes. Like
Exactly.
sometimes it's like there's kind of like more pressing things. I do need to put it on my website somewhere though.
Yes.
Yeah, get that logo up there. That'll look nice and shiny. Were you
seriously.
able to join us at Gen Con this year?
I was not, unfortunately. I ran out of PTO,
Oh, I'm
but
sorry to hear.
definitely next
Oh
year.
my gosh, we'd love
Yeah,
to
I
have you.
wanted to go, but also July is like one of our busiest months because it's the start of our new fiscal year. So get very busy into June, start of July. We have to start doing stuff, and then conference planning time that I'm responsible for. So I was like, I don't think my boss would let me leave even if I asked. So
Fair enough. You know,
Absolutely.
Basil, the more you talk about your stories and your design process, the more I'm starting to realize that you have such a unique perspective that you're bringing to game design. And I'm so glad you mentioned Taylor as well. I'm so glad you know who they are because we talked to them last week and it was so fascinating. And I feel like there are a lot of similarities in some of the work that you do, making some weirder games or, like what is it, finding the magic in the mundane, right? Can you tell us, are there any unique design challenges that come with deciding not to make yet another dungeon crawl?
so I'll say for me, one of my biggest challenges when making anything is that I have dyscalculia. So math is just all the numbers just float around in my head. More often than not, Briar, who is the math sibling, is the one who checks all my math. So designing from that standpoint is difficult. On a more humorous note, I am extremely lucky. I went to a casino with my aunt recently, hadn't played the slot machine before, and won. I started getting all the specials and stuff started lighting up. It just tends to happen. We didn't stay long enough for me to get kicked out, but that's what usually ends up happening when I go to places with slot machines. They kick me out because they think I'm cheating. I'm not. I'm just very lucky. But what that also means is when I'm designing games and trying to come up with, like, say, the amount of like random health for a character, I ended up making one of my NPCs entirely too strong. So then I nerfed him and I did another play test and Z was still too strong. And I was like, okay. So I had to put a note in there just to play it with like half of the stats. It was like, I don't know how to fix this. So sometimes I have that problem where I'm just like trying to like run through a playtest myself, and I'm like, oh, cool. I just keep rolling the max number on this die. That's not helpful. That's not exactly good data. So trying to plan around that, and then I usually like try to adjust. I'm like, okay, so I'll probably roll like this, and then I need to subtract like 2 or 3 points. And also just layout. Like I'll just say it now, all the layout artists out there, you guys are amazing and
Yes.
capable and beautiful and wonderful. I can't do that. That's why most of my games look like they just came out of Google Docs, because they did. It's just like occasionally there's a few images that I'm just like, okay, that's enough layout. That's probably good.
I guess if you don't mind, I have one final question for you. Is there anything like now looking back on your history and all the things that you had to do, is there anything like you wish somebody told you when you started your journey of being a game designer? Like, hey, sit you down, be like, all right, don't worry about this, just have fun with this, or like, hey, definitely use spell check on this, or something like that that you want to give to other up and coming designers and inspiring designers?
Yeah, I would say that, creative burnout is a thing. When I first started, I had the advantage of working from home at the time. So, and working so at home because the work was so slow that I just wasn't actually in front of my computer. I was doing stuff on my personal computer instead. It was that dead. But now in my current job, I am far too busy, and I barely have time when I get home to do anything. So it's like designing on your lunch break kind of energy. So just like I would say to like any new designers who want to get started, my past self, don't run full tilt at designing games, and pick and choose the game jams that you want to submit to. Because in my early days I was like joining up with several, and then joining a game jam that was only a month, but I didn't have an idea what I wanted until halfway through, and then quickly having to design it and play test it and putting in like 11 hours on like a Saturday. Like that's not sustainable for anyone who's like, not me, but especially for me with my chronic fatigue and chronic illnesses and my disabilities. Like that was just a very quick way to get to creative burnout. And then I got burnt out for a bit, and then I had to rest, which rest is important even when you're not having burnout. And then finally, I had to move out of some other unrelated tabletop events. I was doing some fanfic events, and I was like, this isn't working. And as soon as I dropped out of that and took some more rest, boom, 3 game ideas came to me. And now the game ideas are just flowing, and I'm just putting them off in my Discord server that only has me in it for my ideas. Like you have to pace yourself. Like you can't just run full tilt. Like get a calendar and start putting things out, and then that was the other thing that helped me put things on a calendar. I use like the Notion calendar now, but like otherwise that's how you end up doing like 3 APs in one day. And it's like, why did I do this to
Yeah.
myself? And then the next day you have 2 more APs, and then in the middle of the week you're recording for a podcast. Like it's not sustainable, fam. You gotta pace yourself.
That is incredible advice. Pace yourself, take care of yourself, and the ideas will flow. I love that. Basil, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to sign off. Please stick around with us as we sign off. But I want to say thank you again. Like it's really cool to have you come in and talk about from your experience. Like the like I'm reading about the your naked run compared to Pelagos. Pelagos is like so drastically different. I want to talk about that, but I've literally just bookmarked all these games now, so I'm going to go dive into this immediately after. I pop some links in chat, so please check them out. I will also be dropping them on our socials as well. But thank you, Basil, so much for joining us today. Please follow Basil anywhere they are on socials. Yes, so it is it for Table Takes today. But don't worry, there is still more on Gen Con TV coming up in just a couple of hours. We have Sarah's Table, but starting about all next week, all times Pacific. We have Monday, Peter versus the Machine and Dress to Quest. Tuesday, we have Vampire the Masquerade, Indie by Night. They're doing the hunting, was it Hunter Noir? You know this one. Hunter the what? Hunter the... Oh, he's muted. Noir's muted. Oh no.
Reckoning.
Hunter
My
the
mouse,
Reckoning.
my mouse died right
No.
on me right there. I was like, no.
Tuesday, we have Hunter the Reckoning with Indie by Night. Wednesday, we have Miniature Painting with Path of Brush and Actoroki. Then Thursdays, we have Blood on the Clock Tower. And then later, Shadow One with Roll with Rem Alternus. Then Friday, we are right back here for more Table Takes, more Sarah's Table. I want to thank everyone at Gen Con, Steve Connard, Sarah Moore, Peter Atkinson, Tanel Lovett, and Jim Slonikowski. Thanks to these lovely co-hosts, Javion, Bonsai, Noir, Enigma, Basil for joining us. Peter, who could not be here today but sends his love. Thank you all of us, our guests, for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us in chat. And remember, please follow Gen Con TV for more of the best 4 days in gaming all year long. Okay, that's it. We'll see you in a couple hours. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.